please hit that subscribe button. Hey everybody, better suited to win the Stanley Cup this season. If you are new to the channel, Washington Capitals, the Boston Bruins.
Locked on and he scored! And we're live. Hey everybody. So today I want to talk a little bit about the NHL Awards because they now have been all handed out. Obviously, with everything going on this year, they could not have their normal award ceremony and a big party in Las Vegas and everything like they usually do. So what they've been doing is they've been slowly handing out a couple of awards per week before games throughout the playoffs have been played. And we've, if you were watching NBC or the pregame coverage, you found out who won, certain awards on different nights. But they finished it up last night with the MVP, Lindsay Award, some of the bigger awards, Vezina, Norris, ones like that. And now all the awards have been handed out. So I'm just going to do a recap of who won each of the major NHL awards this year and just give a little bit of my thoughts on each winner. So before we begin, I just ask that you please hit that subscribe button if you're new and give the video a thumbs up. That really helps the channel and is much appreciated. But let's get into it here. Starting with the Hart Trophy League MVP. This one really was a tough, tight race in my opinion. Came down to Leon Draisaitl, Nathan MacKinnon, and Artemi Panarin. And Leon Draisaitl, center from the Edmonton Oilers, did end up winning the Hart Trophy. Now, my vote was for Nathan MacKinnon. I still am on Team MacKinnon with this one. Nathan MacKinnon had 40 more points than anyone else on his team, but Leon Draisaitl did lead the league in points this year with 110 and did have a phenomenal season. So really, it was a close race, and you really can't fault them for giving it to Draisaitl. Draisaitl also won the Lindsay Award, which is very similar to the MVP. It oftentimes is the same player who wins the MVP, but it's voted on by the other players in the league. So whereas the writers, hockey writers, are voting on most of these awards, the Lindsay Award is voted on by other players. So Draisaitl was basically voted to be the best player in the NHL this past season by his peers, the other NHL players. So he won that award as well. Norris Trophy, and boy, this one was a shocker. Norris Trophy, which goes to the league's best defenseman for that season, went to Roman Josi, defenseman from the Nashville Predators. And almost everybody thought for sure that it was going to John Carlson of the Washington Capitals, myself included. But Josi takes home the shocking win. Carlson led the league in points among defensemen this year. This award oftentimes goes to the defenseman who scores the most points. But Josi finished in second. And I think the difference here was that Roman Josi plays an overall much better defensive game than John Carlson. John Carlson is largely an offensive defenseman, and at times he certainly struggles in his own zone, whereas Roman Josi finished behind Carlson in points, but he still had a massive offensive season. I believe he finished with like 68 points or something like that. And he's much, much better defensively and a shutdown defensive defender. So I was shocked that it did not go to John Carlson. I think a lot of people were, but I understand why they did pick Roman Josi, and he had a phenomenal season as well. The Vezina Trophy for the league's best goaltender for the last season went to Connor Hellebuyck, goaltender from the Winnipeg Jets. And Hellebuyck was my pick for this award. 100% deserves it. The way that Connor Hellebuyck was able to play with that defense in front of him, that shaky defense, really lacking a lot of legitimate top pair type D-man talent. It was a tough D. It wasn't a great D in front of him in Winnipeg. It was a tough year for Connor Hellebuyck, and he still put up phenomenal numbers. He led the league in shutouts. His goals against and save percentage were phenomenal. The Jets weren't one of the top teams in the league. They were one of those borderline playoff teams, but Hellebuck played absolutely outstanding. And with that team in front of him, I think he absolutely was the best goalie in the league this year. Had he been on a team like Tampa Bay or a team like Boston or a team like St. Louis, his numbers would have been absolutely unreal. The fact that he was able to put up the numbers that he did with Winnipeg in front of him just proved that he was the best goalie in the league this year, and Hellebuck absolutely deserved it. The Calder Trophy for Rookie of the Year. This was a two-horse race from the get-go. It came down to Cale Makar and Quinn Hughes, both defensemen, and Cale Makar ends up winning the Calder, defenseman from Colorado, just edging out Quinn Hughes, and Makar was my pick. This was another one I picked correctly and completely agree with. There's nothing against Quinn Hughes. Quinn Hughes is a phenomenal young player, a phenomenal defenseman, and he's going to put up a ton of points in the NHL. Cale Makar, in my opinion, is a better all-around player. Quinn Hughes is more that offensive defenseman, racks up a lot of assists, can score as well, but most of his points come from assists. Cale Makar, I think, is a much more all-around player. He's very good defensively. He can score goals. He can get assists as well. He can play physical when he needs to. I was all in on Cale Makar winning this award, and he did, which I very much agree with. The Selke Trophy for the best defensive forward, while also, not just strictly best defensive forward, but while also being, a star offensive player. And Sean Couturier from the Philadelphia Flyers, center from the Philadelphia Flyers, finally gets his due with this award, winning it this year, and I 100% agree with that. It came down to him, Patrice Bergeron, who's already won this award 4 times and is always in the discussion with the Selke, and Ryan O'Reilly of the St. Louis Blues, who also has won it before. It was finally time for Sean Couturier to win this award and get the recognition that he deserves as one of the absolute best two-way centers in the NHL. He's a tremendous point producer. He can score, he can set up, and he's also a shutdown defensive forward. Absolutely love seeing Couturier finally win this. So no issue there at all. The Masterson Trophy. The Masterson Trophy, which goes to a player for, perseverance, dedication to hockey, just someone who has overcome a massive obstacle in their career and has come out, on the other side, able to still play and perform and be a solid NHL player. And I think this year was really a two-horse race between Bobby Ryan and Oscar Lindblom. Obviously, Bobby Ryan, very, well-known now, a battle with alcoholism, and he ended up missing a good portion of this season, but then came back. Hugely emotional night. He scored a hat trick in his first game back in Ottawa, his first home game since returning. And Ryan ends up winning it this year. Now, Oscar Lindblom, obviously a well-known battle with cancer, was able to come back and play a couple of games in the playoffs at the end for the Philadelphia Flyers. And a lot of people were saying that, Lindblom was 100% going to win it this year, and Lindblom deserves it. And yes, Lindblom does deserve this award. But I thought, and I agree with this, Bobby Ryan deserved it this year. Oscar Lindblom deserves to win it next year when he comes back and plays a full season after beating cancer, and he will be back with the Flyers, hopefully in a full capacity to play a full year next year, and then Oscar Lindblom should win it for 2021. But I 100% agree with Bobby Ryan winning it for this year. He deserves it just as much, and a tremendous story there with Bobby Ryan of the Ottawa Senators. Jack Adams Award for Coach of the Year. This one went to Bruce Cassidy of the Boston Bruins, and I was a little surprised by that. My pick and who I thought should have won it was John Tortorella of the Columbus Blue Jackets. Just what he was able to do with that team after losing so much last offseason, after dealing with so many major injuries to important players this year. The fact that Tortorella even had the Blue Jackets in playoff contention was absolutely incredible. But it does go to Bruce Cassidy. The Bruins had the best record in the NHL this year in the regular season. And oftentimes this award does go to the coach of whoever the best team is. So not necessarily surprising that Cassidy won it. I would have voted for Tortorella, but Cassidy gets it this year. Lady Byng Award goes to Nathan MacKinnon, center for the Colorado Avalanche. This is basically who... it's most gentlemanly player in sportsmanship on the ice and award, stuff like that. I don't pay a ton of attention to this award. It's basically who's a superstar player while not getting a lot of penalty minutes is basically what it boils down to. And Nathan MacKinnon won it this year. He obviously one of the absolute best players in the NHL, and he only had 12 penalty minutes on the season, so nothing really surprising there. The King Clancy Award, which is basically for community contributions and humanitarian stuff, a lot, off ice, work within the community. That went to Matt Dumba, defenseman from the Minnesota Wild. He's done a ton across all different types of things and types of charity work with Minnesota. So no real surprise there. And finally, the Mark Messier Leadership Award, which basically usually goes to a team captain, not always, but usually. But it's just basically a leader, who's one of the biggest and best leaders and most respected players on and off the ice in the NHL. And this year it went to Calgary Flames defenseman and captain Mark Giordano, obviously, former Norris Trophy winning defenseman, very, very well respected, great leader, great captain of the team, great guy in the locker room. So not really surprising there. So there are your awards for 2020, at least the major awards that were all voted on. Obviously, things like the Art Ross and Rocket Richard, those are statistical awards. We've already known who won them just based on regular season stats. These are the voted on awards who the hockey writers decide who wins. So that's pretty much my recap of those. With that, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, our donation link, Patreon, and merch store are in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.